Yes, this is Bennett Severe and his wife. And these are some of the ladies, and this shows how that they carry their loads on their head. And it's usually the women that do the chores such as this. This is our pet monkey. I told the Africans that I wanted a pet monkey. And so I was able to get this little monkey, and we called him Friday. And I got this little dog from the same family, and they were great friends. We turned Friday loose. He could go anywhere he wanted to go. He never offered to leave. He acted like he thought he was a person. Well, I made him a jacket. It's a little red jacket, and she pinned it on him. He wore that around, and he and the dog used to play together. Here he is eating some sugar cane. He never offered to go back to the wilds. He was free to go anywhere he wanted to, and he never offered to run off. He slept in a box with the dog, and they were good friends. Here he is playing on my neck. This is E.C. Severe. He's the man who contacted us and asked for somebody to come to Africa to help teach them the truth. And I taught them about baptizing. They didn't understand how to do that. I taught them how to worship the Lord scripturally according to the Bible. And there were many, many people that were baptized. This is E.C. Severe doing the preaching. And that's one of our preachers right there. And we had a service, and after the service, he was baptizing those that wanted to be baptized before they went home. He could speak several different dialects, and so he was good for translating. And anytime they baptized, or every time they baptized, the one who did the baptizing would wipe their faces. It was one of their gestures. We didn't have anything to do with teaching them that, but we didn't try to discourage it because it wasn't wrong. And as long as they were practicing things that were not unscriptural, we didn't try to change that and make them do it differently from what they were used to. This is a paramount chief and his attendant. Now that man is over several different villages. He's the authority, and that was his attendant. This is Brother Severe, and they had a little baby while we were there. This is Wilma holding the baby. And this is a mother, and she's got the little baby with her. And this is one of their children. I see this, in this picture here, they're building a little shop. And this is the way it's built. They utilize whatever is available there. Now, it doesn't cost anything to build one of them using their own type of building. They eat grasshoppers. There's one of their grasshoppers. And this is Samuel Bindani. He made one of the preachers, and he's eating a grasshopper. They also eat what they call flying ants. They are termites. And they will eat mice. Now he is stripping this to make a rope or a string or something. He uses a fiber. This is Wilma. She's teaching the girls how to sew and how to embroider. And they thought a lot of Wilma because she was so good to them. Now these hoes are being used to make mud. The mud was to be used in the construction of a building. That is being mixed by school kids. E.C. Severe ran a little school, and some of these are school kids. And they're put to work. They're fixing the outside of a wall. They have somebody that's mixing the mud by stomping it, and they usually like to use termite mud because it is better than just ordinary flesh. These are the boys that are applying the mud to this building. They're being taught how to work and use the things that are available. Now, it doesn't cost anything to build a building like that if a person does it himself. We thought it would be interesting to have bubble gum sent from the States. It was not available over there, so we shared the bubble gum. There was not one person that could blow a bubble. And when I'd blow a bubble, it was like they thought it was my tongue. This is a natural, some of the natural life over there. There's a snake, and in that area there were poisonous snakes. There was the impedi, and there was the black mamba, and then spitted cobra, and there's a large snail, and that's the kind of mice that they eat. Now here's some wildlife that I was able to get pictures. There are wild ostriches there. And these animals are running scared. We also saw giraffes. They're native there. And other wild animals. One of the animals that we saw would run in herds. This is elands. And they were running across our road. And the last one jumped that road, and because it was such a large jump, I got out and measured it. It jumped 19 feet. There's a wild ostrich. And those trees are typical in Africa. They provide a lot of shade and probably food for animals like that. There's an eland. This is an anthill. They call it anthill. It's a termite hill. Termites will build large nests like that, and some of them are taller than a man's head. This is a school, a church building being used as a school building on the property at Windy, and that was a teacher. They wear their clothes until they're just rags because they don't have money to buy just whatever they would like to have. But they don't act like they're embarrassed if they're in rags. They just accept it as a matter of life. This is a game that they play. They call it Gargoda. I never could figure out what the object was, but I watched them and took pictures of them playing. This is E.C. Severe, And this is Samuel P. Stony playing that game with school kids. They pound rocks on the ground like that, and they're saying something all the time, whatever goes along with that game. This is severe. I taught them how to jump rope. And this was one of the few that could jump rope. Severe never could accomplish much. There's one of the boys that's learned how to jump rope. I also taught them how to walk on their hands, but nobody ever achieved that. I taught them how to do sit-ups, and you can see this young fellow managed to make one effort, and they succeeded. I taught them how to stand on their head, and here's one of the schoolboys that's showing them that he can do it. When it rained, it was like pouring out of a bucket. It would just pour. These are Chinaberry trees. They're grown and used in their construction. One of the boys liked to wander around. This is a couple of the preachers and myself. And these are some of the women. And it's customary for them to wear some kind of a head wrap, as you can see. Now there's one tribe that uses a tattoo knife. When they have a headache, it's sharp on one end and pointed on the other end. They use that to make scars, and they think that cures their headaches. These are some of the women that were at church. That's Bennett Severe in the red shirt. He's Brother Severe's youngest brother. They also had a brother that called himself Hippo. So I asked him one time how he spelled Hippo, and he said Hippo. There he is. I think that might have been him. But you can see the grass roofs. They utilize whatever's available. Now this is the house that we lived in. These were homemade bricks. And it had a dirt floor, no ceiling in it when we moved into it. We improved it, made it more livable, and the insects liked it just as well as we did. And while we were eating, sometimes the roaches would sit on the shelf and watch us eat. This is mowing the grass. There was no grass mower, so they used a knife like that. And the women pounded the corn. They called it msima when it was finished and made into dough. And they eat that every day. And while the women are pounding the corn, lots of times they're singing. And the one that's next to them is sifting the corn. And that's just a young girl. And this is the hulls that she gets rid of and saves the flour. This woman is selling corn. Corn is their staple food every day. This little boy is Brother Severe's son. Here, the women are working, and this is a young lady that's carrying the water. She was carrying the little boy. We paid her to carry water from a well, so we would have drinking water. This is Wilma's. This is Wash Day. And that's the way the women carried loads on their head. Now that's Sister Severe, and she had the baby just a few days before that, and there she was working. There was a certain mountain close enough that the women could go and get clay, and they would make pots like this. And it's amazing. All of this is handmade. And this is old Brother Severe's wife. This is E.C. Severe's mother that was making that pot. And look how symmetrical it is. Look at the size of it. And that's a tattoo knife that they used for cutting scars when their head aches and rubbing some kind of material in those. This is Severe's mother, and she was of another tribe, and she had scars all up and down her arms. This is John, and he's eating grasshopper. One young fellow. This is E.C. Severe, a couple of kids eating msema. Msema is like a dough. See, Severe's wadding it up, and then they dip it in some kind of a condiment, some kind of a vegetable or something. They eat this every single day. This is E.C. Severe and his daddy, and this is, that might have been one of his children. This is a church building and where one of us preached, either Galen Osborne or myself. And you can see lots of people would go to church services to hear the gospel. And some of them went to church services to see the people. That is, the white people that were there. Now, we made friends with a lot of people there. And I bought a grotesque mask in Oklahoma City before I went overseas. And I used that to get the attention of some of them, and they were afraid of that mask. And that's the car that we drove. It was a little English Austin panel. And we had to drive with the windows open because of the exhaust fumes that were so bad. These are the preachers. And these are some of the people that were listening to the preaching. Now that man was reprimanding some of the preachers. Said, when I was baptized, I had 2 wives. I got rid of one of mine. Some of you haven't gotten rid of yours. When this service was over, there were 31 people that were baptized. These are preachers. This one was a Tumbuka, and this one's Chalome. Different tribes. They had learned to live together, but at one time they were enemies. This is E.C. Severe baptizing some. Now that's a house that Severe's daddy lived in. The older men would exercise trials. If there was a difference among the Africans, they'd bring it to an older African and he would try the case. And that's what was going on there. After a while, it was time for us to depart and go back home. and the Africans came in large number. Now this is a number of people who came and got clothing that we had shipped over there from the States. Our brothers shipped lots of clothes to help the people over there when we were there the first time. And these are the ones that came to get the clothes. Now, they came for us to leave, and the crowd was just as big to see us off as there were that came to get the clothing nearly. Now, it's possible that they did not keep all the clothes that they were able to take home, but maybe they used them for bartering and getting things that they needed. This was preaching time outdoors. This is a village headman. He was one of the preachers, Judas Maua. And he had control of our whole village and was one of the people that we worked with. Now you can see they had lots of baptizing. They had lots of people that submitted to being baptized. And every time we had a baptizing, and it was announced, we'd have a large crowd that would gather to witness. He had trouble with one little lady at this baptizing. That's Wilma, and this is a day that we were telling them we were leaving to come back to America. I believe that's the day. And a whole lot of people came to see us off. They hated to see us leave because we had helped them. We had helped them not only spiritually, but they helped them materially too. And so they really appreciated our being there. And when it was time for us to leave, to come back to America, they gathered in a large number to see us off. They didn't want us to leave, but it was time for us to go. I'd gotten down to 142 pounds, and you could see I was getting pretty skinny and 6 feet tall. And I'm telling them goodbye, encourage them to stay faithful, and we were going back home. Sevier was an excellent translator. His brother Bennett, he was being trained to translate, but he wasn't the translator that Sevier was. These are people that run along by the side of the train that we were on. This is at the Mekalongwe area, and they were telling us goodbye. And they were furnishing food for the trip. They didn't understand that food would be furnished. So we would just take their offerings and put them inside the train, and then we would give those things that we had received to people in another village that would be available, and they would benefit from the food. Look at the large crowd that gathered to see us go. This is the second trip that we made in 1959. And that's the church building that they had. And so Galen and I, this is the house that Wilma and I lived in. And that's building material, I think. That's Paulette. She was 3 years old when we went back the second time. And because this was just three room, a kitchen and 2 bedrooms, we had to store our stuff on the porch of one of them. Now this is the other house that's being built by the Africans for Galen and Rowetta. In the meantime, we all lived in that first house. This was wash day. We had bought a little English washer, and it became a center of attraction. Whenever we'd have a wash day, Africans would gather to watch it work. That's E.C. Seville's father. He was one of the workers that was enlarging our house. And this is some of the women. Those are homemade brick. And that's the way they mix their mud. Now this is an addition, and you see it doesn't have any roof on it. And it took so long for the Africans to get the job done. They'd come when they got ready and they'd leave when they got ready. And finally I just laid them all off and I started working on it myself. I said, I'll just do it myself. Well, they saw that I could, and so they said, we must come back, and they went ahead and worked on it. See, part of the roof's off of the kitchen. Now we had a more permanent roof that second time. This is Paulette again. She was a sweet little girl. She doesn't remember being over there. This is E.C. Seville's father. He's doing some of the mason work on the front door. And that's just ordinary mud out of those anthills or wherever. This is one of the workers. You notice he's driving a nail. They would drive a nail, and if it didn't hit lumber, well, they'd drive another nail till they finally got one. You could see daylight through the nail holes where they missed the timber. One of them accidentally let his hammer slip, and it slid down the roof and hit another African on the head. And the one that got hurt threatened to kill that other one. But that was nothing but a threat. It took forever, weeks, for them to get that done. This is Hippo. He is C.C. Seville's brother. And that's the garbage pit. And when we throw tin cans or anything like that into that garbage pit, there would be people gather them up. This is the van that Galen and I bought. And that's Paula. That's Galen's little one. This is Galen. And that's his luggage that he is trying to load after we got a warning from our officer. This is Paulette. This is Paula. And that's Rowetta throwing the dishwater out. This is Terry, and that's Galen Osmond's boys. And that largest one is a preacher now. He's trying to get his luggage in that van. This is Wilma. And you can see that white wall there is Galen's house, next door to us. This is Bennett carrying our stuff inside to keep it safe while we were away. These garbage cans here are not garbage, they're water containers. This is Rowetta, and that's our outhouse back there. Anybody could use it. Anybody coming by or living in the village, it was a public utility. And that's what we had to use. That's some of the African, that's one of the Severes, I believe. Or two of them, Bennett and Antonio. We hired this young fellow right here. He did our washing, and he was the center of attraction whenever he did a washing. That's our road. And that's our road. And the grass would grow taller than the cars. And that's the way we had to travel sometimes to get to places to preach. Now this grass here is taller than the car is. And lots of times the radiators would get more seeds off the grass than was right. They were good, and we had to take care of that. You see the rocks on the roof to hold the roofing on. This is an area that we passed, and I got these pictures. We had a low water bridge that we had to cross in order to go a certain road that led us to town. And one time the water was so deep we were afraid to try to cross it in the car for fear we would get washed out. And so Galen and I waded it, and the women picked us up at about 11:30 that night. That's the van that we bought together. And you can see the kind of roads that sometimes we had to drive. That's the that's the high water pressure. When it rained real hard, then the water would rush across here, and we had to use good judgment as to whether even try to make that crossing. And that particular night, we were afraid to do it. And so we waded it, and were walking in the dark when the women came and picked us up, or Rowetta did. This was a main road. This, I think, was the road into town. We drove on the left-hand side, the English type. One time we were driving along, and I was wondering why that car that was coming, that we were facing, didn't get over on his side. And then it dawned on me that we were supposed to be driving on the left side, and I was in his way. But we didn't crash. Now, the state of emergency brought these soldiers in to Malawi. They were armed, and there was a lot of trouble because the white people wanted to make Malawi, or Nyasaland, which is now in Malawi, affiliated with Southern Rhodesia and Northern Rhodesia. And the Africans in Nyasaland, many of them did not want it. And so we had a lot of trouble. One night, 22 Africans were killed because of the uprising. Not in our area, but in another one. This is town. This is town. That clock tower right there was a gathering place for people that were against the government. And so they tore that down. But when we were there the second time, they had built a new one, a little off, a few feet off to the side instead of in the same place. That fellow was working a sewing machine. This is one of the insects that they had. This is a giant snail. You can see the size of it by the size of that match. This is a queen of the termites. And when they could get rid of the queen, the termites would die. They will not work. This is one of their insects, and that's the way he walked. This is a snake that was killed. That's me holding the snake. Now the black mamba is a very vindictive type of animal. He will chase a person, and if he is able to bite him, it could kill him. And I ran over one not very far from our house, but it didn't kill him. Now we had a big meeting, and this is the meeting. And I guess it was this particular meeting where I was sitting listening to the preacher, and a snake went by my feet, about 4 or 5 feet from me, and went into the side of this is a baptizing, I think. But we had the opportunity to teach lots of people the truth and help establish the church in that continent of Africa. That's E.C. Severe who was talking. Baptizing. They always wipe their faces. It's just a custom. Here they are singing. There's Wilma and the kids at her feet at a baptizing. This is Severe. On our second trip over there were lots of men that claimed to be preachers. And as we associated with them, we realized that they did not, we suspected, I should say, that they hadn't even been baptized. That's Galen. We doctored lots of the Africans. He's given her ear medicine. We doctored as many as 75 people in a day. We would buy them medicine in town at the pharmacy. The pharmacist took a liking to us and sold us some medicine. And so lots of people came for the free medicine. This is our helper. This is Josiah. She'd ask him, Mima Kopoteka, Indy, stomach hurting, Casamola, coughing, Indy. Yeah, they were coughing. The same person would take all the medicine that you'd give them. And so we had to be careful because some of them would even sell medicine that they didn't swallow. Like there's one of their tropical ulcers. And there's another. This one was much larger than that when we started doctoring. But they were so odoriferous, they smelled so bad, they would draw flies while we were doctoring. And they'd doctor themselves after we'd give them clean, new bandages. They'd get rid of the bandage and put a banana leaf over the sore. Well, that would just seal it. We'd say, don't use banana peels, the banana leaves. And the next time they were back, maybe they'd have a banana leaf on it. So it was difficult to cure all of their ailments. This one was burned so bad, in his wrist you could see the bone. It was exposed. He came with this terrible, deformed hands that had been ruined. And I asked him, I said, he came, he thought we could cure him. There's Wilma holding the baby. This is Galen. I asked him how it happened. And I had a translator, and he asked him what happened to his hands like that. He said, witches got him. Witches caused him to get burned. And chances are he had an epilepsy fit or a bad dream or something and got in the fire. And it destroyed the use of his hands. This is C.B. Head and his son. And he's from Ceres, California. He's dead now. But they came there in this little Morris Minor, a little car. And they came to visit us. And I asked him if he's thinking about coming over there and do mission work. He said he didn't know anybody that would come to that place. And they were not going to stay there. And they didn't come to work. They just came to sightsee. And Head's wife stayed in Salisbury, Southern Rhodesia. She didn't even come to look at it. This is a road that we traveled. And these are baboons. They were in the road. And when they saw us coming, they got out of the way. These are some of the workers. And they were getting material ready for the church building that Galen and I furnished the money out of our support to build. We were getting $800 each family. And this is what they were meeting in when we got there. So we built a church building that still stands and still used after all of these years. Those boys were schoolboys, and they were given the responsibility of building a road. And that's what they were doing. Now this is the brick molder. And these are workers getting the mud together for him to mold the brick. Then the women would come, and girls, and pick up the bricks on boards and haul them over to a certain spot where they were burned in a kiln. And this is the material that was used to build that church building. Now he's standing in a hole, and others are furnishing the mud, and he's molding the bricks. And then the women and the kids are carrying the molded bricks to the place where they'll be burned. Now these are the ones getting the mud, digging. This is the mud that they use. There's some of the bricks that are in the kiln. And look at all the workers. Now, I don't know how many of them were not being paid, but we were not paying all these workers. But you can see how careful they were with those molded bricks. That's mud. Now, I paid $1 a load for this kind of grass for a roof. $1 was worth 14 cents. And for every one of these loads, I would pay them $1, which was a lot more than what they ordinarily would get from anybody else. And they brought load after load after load because they needed the money. But it was used for roofing. Now there's a woman carrying a brick. And they would burn the bricks for several days until they were finally cured, and then they were molded to make the building. They were burned to make the building. They were hardened, and there is the building that they were putting up. Now, we wanted that building to last, and so we bought steel sash window frames, because if we had put in wooden frames, they would be eaten by termites and the building could collapse. Now these are carrying bricks on their heads. Look at the weight that they carry. 3 bricks at a time, or 4. There's just, it was a cooperative operation. Now the bricks were put in this kiln in a right way, and then they were burned for several days until they were hardened. This is one of our preachers, I think. These are just boys, kids. We were a spectacle to them because they weren't used to a white person being out there living among them. Now, Dr. Royer, who operated on Wilma, she had to have surgery while we were over there. He owned this bus. It's a Volkswagen bus. Well, he decided that he wanted to buy a car. He sold this bus to Galen. So Galen had this one and I had the other one. Lots of times the Africans would like to ride because they were having to walk here, walk there. That's Galen driving. And they would get sick at the stomach because they weren't used to that type of transportation. This is our car. It was an English Ford, and it was so low that when I drive in certain area, it might knock the muffler off or loose, and I'd have to work on the car and get it back in operation. This is Galen. These are school kids. They like to show off at a certain time after they'd gone to school for several weeks. Here they are putting on a display. I don't know what this is all about, but they were showing off. And that's a drum that somebody made. And see all the spectators, the mamas and the daddies and all. And this is one of the teachers. And they were at liberty to make a show for people. I don't know to this day what that was for, unless it was just to show off. That was a teacher that was walking along there. You can see the church building still not complete. But what they could see that we were there to help them, and we were welcoming guests among them. They respected us very highly. That drum right there I brought back to the States, that little drum. This is one of their teachers. Look how orderly they are. I think that's Bennett Severe. That's me. And I think this is the day that we were telling them that we were leaving. Look how skinny I was. And look how orderly everybody is who are there in that crowd. The women and the men, it was customary for them to be separated. The men would be in one group and the women another one. And this is the kids. This is Galen Osborne's kids. This is Terry, and that's Glenn, and there's Paulette, and that's Paula Jean. She got embarrassed. I don't know if Paulette has ever seen this herself. And of course, at her age, she doesn't remember the places, the countries that we were in. There's the church building in the background that we built. This is showing off his drum beating. That's the drum that I brought back to the States. I'm definitely a spectator. I don't know what's going on. That's the teacher. There's Paulette all dressed up. Even got her purse. She had her third birthday there. That's my camera bag.
If I ever need someone when I'm feeling down, if I'm ever feeling lonely, I know you'll be around. If I ever find myself in trouble and I really don't know what to do, I'm not scared 'cause I know that I can count on you. Loving you is easy, believing is so easy, and just like counting 1, 2, 3, you can count on me. If I ever wake up crying in the middle of the night, I can hear you whisper to me,